I'm going in search of witches.
Witches.
Witches. I guess you found me out, huh? Yeah. You should come around here on Halloween. You'd really see something then.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we all jump off the roof and fly.
You know, sort of like a coven.
You have placed Fester under some strange sexual spell.
At what time will we be spellcasting?
Hello, witches, and welcome to Moonstone Witchery, the podcast where we chat about witchcraft in the modern era. It has been a minute since I have been here on our podcast, and I typically would say, I'm sorry that I've been gone for so long, but with the world being in the state that it's been in, I think and I hope and I know that y'all are understanding about the fact that life has gotten crazy, and I had to take a step back for a little while. But I have found my footing, and I am here returning to chat with y'all about all things witchy and witchcraft oriented and spiritual. So I'm glad to be back. I hope you're glad to hear me back with you guys today. And as usual, I love receiving messages from you over on my Instagram or wherever you may find me. You can find me on Instagram at moonstone_witchery. You can also find me sporadically on Twitter. I don't remember exactly what my Twitter handle is. It was something weird. And you can find me on Facebook. And as always, you can find me on moonstonewitchery.com, where we have lots of fun witchy products, including a monthly subscription box and a monthly crystal of the month service that comes right to your door. And I priced that super affordable because back in the day when I was starting out on my spiritual journey, I was always wishing I could expand my crystal collection, but everything seemed so expensive and I didn't have time to get to the witch store or the crystal shop all the time. So I tried to solve that problem for any other witches out there wanting to receive something exciting in the mail, but who maybe were on a budget. So for $15 a month, I've got a cool crystal of the month. Anyway, enough of the commercials. Let's get started. You might hear some background noise as I am recording this, and I hope you guys are okay with that because I chose to record this podcast today sitting outside in the yard because the sun is out. It's finally warm. The animals are around. There's a lot of chirping, and I see some crows flying by, which is always exciting, but I do live by a busy road. So you may hear some traffic, and you also might hear my dog bark because she is a baby and does not yet know when to bark and when not to bark. So just as all of my disclaimers at the beginning of this new season of podcasting, and even though season 2 was pretty short, I'm just going to move right on into season 3. Today's topic is something that comes up fairly often when I post about certain things on Instagram, and I figured why not chat about it because it's something that's I think debated a lot and that is often misunderstood. I'm going to be talking today about gray witchcraft. Gray witchcraft is kind of the blend between, white witches and I guess dark witches. I'm not really sure. I've never really heard anyone say they're a dark witch. And we're always trying to move away from language that demonizes darkness and sort of canonizes the lightness or the whiteness. Not only just because love and light and positivity only can be toxic itself, but also because there's some racism involved there in demonizing and vilifying things that are considered dark and glorifying and putting up on a pedestal things that are light. So that's kind of inherently icky unto itself. So I just want to say that white witches aren't necessarily better than, dark witches or, people who practice left-handed magic, but there is something in between. You don't have to be a good witch or a bad witch. You don't have to be love and light only versus, hex the world. You can be what I call and what many people call a gray witch. So what does this mean? What is a gray witch? Well, a gray witch is someone, as I just said, that kind of walks in the in-between. She is someone who understands that for all circumstances, there are answers, okay? And she doesn't necessarily attach morality to the answers that immediately come to mind. So, for example, I made a post, and I think I probably should have looked up exactly what it said, but it said something like, when you come at me, what I do is I send back your energy to you. And it's up to you whether me sending your energy back to you is good or if it's bad. I'm kind of like botching really badly what the quote was, but it was said beautifully. It was basically like, if I say I return your energy to you and you get bad energy back at you, that's on you, rather than if I say like just blessings to you. A lot of people got really upset with this post because they said that it was perhaps unkind or, stirring up negativity, or there was a lot of talk about hexing that happened in the thread under this post. And I kept saying, I don't think you understand the quote. Like, I don't think you're really getting what I'm putting out there. And there was a lot of argumentation about that, where it was like, of course I do, I just don't agree with you. And that's everyone's prerogative. People do not have to agree with me. I'm not here ever claiming I am the authority, I know everything, this is the way it is. Once I start doing that, like, that's my signal to you guys that I've been like kidnapped, and you should probably like try to find me, because I will never ever speak in absolutes like that, except right now when I'm telling you I will never do it. What I'm saying is I don't think that there is any one person who is like ever going to be able to tell you this is the right way or this is the wrong way, especially when it comes to questions of morality. Now, as I always say, as I talk about this a lot on this podcast, I've been studying religion and spirituality for a very long time. I am an ordained minister who went through more than 2 years of a seminary program. So it's not like I'm just kind of coming up with my own random thoughts and just sort of sharing them as if they are factual. No one can say anything factual when it comes to morality or ethics or philosophy even, because that's the nature of it all. It's all nebulous. It's all not really defined. Sorry, I paused as this truck drove by. When it comes to gray witchcraft, or when it comes to a post like the one I made that was like, if I send your energy back to you and it's negative, that maybe that's for you to figure out. Or if I send your energy back to you and it's positive, okay, then you're getting positive energy. See, that's more of a neutral statement than what it was received as by some people. Now, a lot of y'all got it. A lot of y'all were like, yeah, right, that's perfect, I love this. And I'm not overlooking those of you who were like, yes, this is so good, I totally understand. Like, that was helpful too. But I wanted to engage a little bit further with those of you or anybody who hears that and feels like some kind of guilt or intensity of feeling bad as a result of the idea that if I send someone's energy back to them and it has negative consequences, that they themselves are doing something negative by sending the energy back. Some witches feel that way. Some witches feel that any type of reversal work. So this is called reversal work, right? So if I was to do a reversal spell, it would mean that any energy that you send to me will reverse right back to you. Typically, we only do a spell like this if we feel like someone's about to try to send us some negative energy, right? Because we're just like, it's a protection move. It's like, almost like, imagine that you are holding up a shield and that shield deflects any energy coming your way. I mean, those of you who have any like experience playing video games or like D&D or any kind of role playing anything will understand that there are characters and spells and things of this nature that will deflect energy back to the person who sent it. So it's called a reversal. So I want you to imagine, like, reversal spells often actually work with mirrors. And I always tell witches to be very careful with mirror work, especially if you're new to witchcraft, just because mirror work tends to be pretty advanced and it can go a little haywire, okay? So this is not me encouraging you to dive into a mirror spell. I really don't want anyone doing any mirror work until they really feel as if they are qualified. But if I'm doing a reversal, or if I put reversal energy around me, it's really just a deflection. It's just a deflection device. It's kind of like I'm putting on maybe a bulletproof vest, or I'm putting up something that will just beam energy off of me. It's like a rain guard on a windshield, and none of it can kind of penetrate or get into me. Now, there are different forms of reversals. I mean, I suppose you can do a spell that doesn't reverse it back, but just deflects it off of you. That's protection magic. That's fundamental, basic protection magic. And I encourage all of you, by the way, to do a lot of protection magic on around yourself and your home and your loved ones, but specifically starting with yourself, because the foundation of all witchcraft is learning how to cleanse and ground and protect yourself. And these are really safe and sacred and special ways for you to not only get used to the art of witchcraft, but to really get deep into your practice. There are so many different ways that you can do protection work. And it's really valuable and valid. And it's often overlooked, I think, because it maybe isn't so glamorous, but it's very helpful to have really good, strong, powerful, reinforced protection magic. Specifically with protection magic, also, you need to reinforce it. You have to go back out and reset your boundaries, redo the perimeters that you've laid around your home and over the thresholds and the windows of your house or of your space where you live. I want you to draw sigils on your car. I want you to protect your vehicles. I want you to, recharge your protection mojo bags if you carry anything with you, or any amulets that you wear, or anything that you have enchanted to protect you, and any kind of spell work that you've done to protect or deflect any energy from you. That kind of spell work really does need tending and maintenance. It's not really a one and done. A lot of spells you're going to do once, and then you're going to purposefully and intentionally forget about them, because the more that you think about them, the more that you undo them. And perhaps that's something we'll talk about at a later date. But for now, what I want to remind you all is, if you have protective work around your home or yourself, go ahead and use this as an opportunity to reinforce it. Even if you're a seasoned witch, it's always good to get back to the basics and to remind yourself why you are doing what you're doing and how you can anchor into your protection work on yourself. And you can come up with fun new ways as your witchcraft has advanced to make that magic really stick in a different way. But the reason that protection work always needs reinforcing is because we are actually always violating our own protection magic. We are actually always allowing in energy that we actually don't want in. And that's not really our fault. Now, this gets a little bit into psychology and self-work. As I always say, witchcraft and self-work go hand in hand. And this is an example of why. Frequently, we have to do protection work because we have allowed in somebody into our life who maybe didn't have the best of intentions for us. We've allowed in someone into our life who perhaps we kind of are later oh, oops, maybe I should not have this person in my life, or maybe I shouldn't be taking advice from this person, or maybe I really actually, on second thought, don't want this person to have access to my energy field. Or perhaps the relationship has changed, and now someone that we used to trust, we don't trust anymore because of new information we have, or just the way things have gone. If you find that that's the case, and you want to remove or change the energy between yourself and someone else, you need to revisit your protection magic. The other thing is that we're conditioned a lot to allow in energy that's kind of toxic to us. This isn't really our fault. Again, it's kind of always based on how we've been brought up. So if we were brought up with certain toxic individuals, it might have taken us many years to find out those people were toxic. But our problem is that toxicity can often feel familiar. And when something feels familiar, we just impulsively allow it to have access to us. Well, that's a problem, right? So this is how we overstep our own protective boundaries, whereas we're ultimately in charge of our own energy field. So if I meet someone and they feel familiar to me and I like them, but it turns out they're familiar to me in a way that's toxic, but I don't realize that in my conscious mind yet, I might allow them into my life. I might allow them to have access to me. Now, because ultimately I'm in charge of myself, my own energy boundaries aren't going to keep that person away from me because I've allowed them in. Once I come to that aha moment, and it might be days, weeks, months, hours, years later, I'm going to have to reinforce my boundaries. And I'm going to want to say to them, oh, hey, alert me when I am breaking my own energy field, when I am breaking my own boundaries, when I am violating my own protection magic. Could y'all kind of let me know? Because that's the thing we often forget to say at the beginning when we're first setting our protection around us. So that's something to consider. Why am I on this tangent? Well, because when we're protecting ourselves, we can protect ourselves through a lot of ways. We can transmute energy that comes our way that's negative, which just means like turn it into something else. So we can use crystals, or we can set the spell work, or we can, tell the salt perimeter, or whatever it is that we do to protect our homes and ourselves. We can tell it like when negative energy comes our way, just diffuse it, turn it into something else, elevate it. Now, not everything is capable of doing that. Certain crystals are really good at doing that. They're really good at transmuting the energy to a higher vibration. Selenite comes to mind as one. Quartz will do basically anything you tell it to. But then other crystals don't have that capability. What they do instead is they absorb. And so they'll just suck in the negative energy and get overloaded, which is why it's so important to cleanse your crystals. All your crystals that you're working with are often going to absorb until they break. So if you wear crystals a lot and you find that they are just like breaking or falling off of you or getting lost, it's because they've taken in too much energy and they haven't been cleansed in a minute. So that's just something for you to think about. Now, there's other forms of protection magic, which is a reversal. Now, some witches, specifically, I think Wiccans often feel this way, feel that this is kind of like extra. Like they're like, you don't really need to go that step. Like you don't really need to take it to that level because it's a little aggressive. Now, in my mind, I'm like, well, honestly, what I want someone to do is to feel uncomfortable being cruel towards me. I don't want someone to feel as if like, it's fine to send her any bad energy or ill will or negativity. I'm not really into that. I, in my own personal life, have been, pretty abused and victimized and have had a lot of trauma. So for me, it feels as if it's not extra to send it back in certain circumstances, but perhaps as just like smart. Because what that's doing for me is keeping an extra layer between myself and someone else who might want to send negativity my way. This is all up to you, though. This is personal to you. Witchcraft is self-work. So it requires you to say to yourself, like, well, how do I feel about this? How do I feel about the idea that if someone wants to send me energy, I'm always going to say, just sending it right back to you? Because on the one hand, it's beautiful, right? On the one hand, it's absolutely beautiful to say, whatever energy someone sends my way, I just want it to bounce right back to them. Because if someone's sending me a lot of love or kindness or really good intentioned energy, it's really nice to bounce that back at them. But if someone's sending me a lot of like hateful, negative, like I hope that you like F up energy, it's also really nice to send that back to them as well. What kind of place is that coming from within them? Now, I don't always do this. I don't always do it. I sometimes am just like, whatever, if any negative energy comes my way, just diffuse it. I don't want it, just whatever. And I actually have this rule where I will say, whatever positive energy is sent my way, I'd like it to get through, and I want it magnified, amplified, and reversed back to the person who sent it to me. So I have certain things that are set up around me to protect me in that way, but also to amplify the positive energy and send it back to someone who means me positivity or goodwill. You can get this deep about it. You can get onto this level about it. You can get really nuanced with your witch work because it's all personal to you. Witchcraft is self-work. So any witch that you see, her practice is going to be different than another witch, even if they are like in the same coven or following the same path. If they're doing witchcraft, quote, right, and this is all subjective, but if they're doing it, quote, right, they're going to be doing it in a way that aligns with them. That's the only way to make your witchcraft incredibly powerful, is to align your witch work to yourself. So when you are deciding, how do I want to set up my protection magic? How do I feel about reversal spells? Like, what am I thinking here? I want you to ask yourself, like, well, what's my personal belief system? Do I feel like it's mean to send someone's own vibes back to them and let them sit with their own energy? Or do I want to accept the energy that comes my way from anybody? My answer is a hard no, by the way. I'm always like, any energy that comes my way, I don't care what it is, has to kind of like knock on the door, and I have to open the door and decide if I want to invite it in or not, So anytime I ever post somewhere asking for good vibes or whatever, I have already said to myself and to my guides and to the auric fields and to the spells that I have set, I am allowing in a certain type of energy, and I get very clear and very specific as to what energy I'm allowing in. I am not allowing in a certain other type of energy. Sometimes I say, anyone who wants to send me anything that's effed up, send it right back. And other times I'm like, just whatever, delete that. Delete it and move on. But this is what it means to be a gray witch. It means I'm living in that in-between zone where I'm analyzing and assessing whatever it is that comes my way. And I'm not saying there's a definitive right or wrong, there's a definitive black or white to this. Instead, I'm saying, shades of gray. Let's dive in. Let's assess it. Let's think it over. Let's analyze it. Just as we would in most circumstances where perhaps we have a friend who needs our help and another friend needs the same help, we're going to decide on a case-by-case basis, typically, how we approach each friend based on a whole lot of factors, like who have they been to us in the past, who are they in their own life, do they accept help? When they ask for help, do they actually want help, or are they just trying to have something else happen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Every single thing that happens, even if it looks the same from the outside, is really unique on a case-by-case level, and gray witchcraft acknowledges that fact and considers it. Whereas maybe love and light positivity only witch work, which is kind of more predominant than, left-handed magic practitioners, although of course they are out there, but they're not really advertising it because, oh my God, if the fastest way to get a flame war on witchy Instagram is to talk about like hexing someone, but whatever. What I'm saying here is everything on a case-by-case basis is to be assessed. And so when you are dealing with a situation, I don't know about you, but I know I always look at all the factors that I can consider when I'm dealing with a situation, whether it's magical or witch work or just like a social situation or a family situation or a work situation. I am looking at many of the factors in order to determine how I want to handle something. The same should be true, in my opinion, of your magic. There are definitely rules in certain sects of witchcraft. There's definitely black and white answers. The Wiccans believe in the Reed of Three, which is like anything you do bounces back at you three times over. Not all witches believe that. That is not a fact of magic. I have ranted about that before. It's just one belief system. Many voodoo practitioners do not believe that at all. And many voodoo practitioners actually feel spiritually obligated to hold people accountable for their actions in what some witches consider left-handed or negative magic. But see, to me, as I've said before, I've been taught by several voodoo practitioners, so I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for them. And I also really understand where they're coming from. Because if you're going to claim and own the title of witch, especially as you advance in your own path, what you're really saying is, I am someone who has studied extensively the spiritual laws of the universe. I understand intrinsically the spirituality, the energy, the laws of the energy and the morality of the spiritual world to a depth that most people don't. I have done enough self-work that I know whether I'm coming from a place of ego and chaos and mayhem within myself, or if I'm able to come from a place of neutrality within myself, or neutrality on the part of my client, where I'm not looking just for some kind of revenge or craziness out of a place of ego, but instead I'm kind of holding spiritual laws accountable to themselves. So why would this need to happen? I've had people ask me this before. It's like, if there's a higher power, why would witches need to even be sitting around like doing this work to hold people accountable? And I would say that question is the answer for itself, because witches are here in order to hold accountable other people and energies and entities that are existing in the tangible realm to the spiritual laws of the universe. That is why we are awakened to it. That is why we know about it. We are here having an understanding of and a sense of the energy that flows underneath the surface of everything that is, specifically so we can do that work, specifically so we can say, hey, hang on a second, there's a huge energy imbalance happening over there, and I'm going to do something about it because I can, because I know how to, because I've been empowered to, because I was born a witch. I happen to believe that witches are born witches in order to fulfill their divine purpose of holding the spiritual energy accountable to itself as it manifests in people, as it manifests in systems, as it manifests in corporations, as it manifests in animals or places or situations in general. A witch is able to see when something's out of alignment. And it is my belief that a witch who has done her self-work and who has elevated herself to a certain path or to a certain level is actually obligated to step up and hold that energy accountable, especially when asked to. And if you are afraid of accountability magic, then that means that you have depths within yourself that you haven't explored yet and that you aren't yet comfortable, that is not a bad thing. It's actually nice for you to know that there are places within yourself that still require exploration, that still require you to visit them, that still require that self-work that I'm always talking about, for you to say, okay, I have to explore this within myself before I can do any work around it. And that's an opportunity. It's an invitation for you spiritually to level up. And it's an invitation for you to level up just as a human being, to become a better person, or the person that you really want to be. We don't actually ever really become who we're supposed to be until we dive into our shadow side and really face what's there. And this is why many witches kind of get a little weird about the positivity only, love and light only witches, because we understand that life isn't really love and light only. The world isn't really positivity only, and we cannot heal what we deny exists. And I'm going to say that again because I feel like someone said that to me once and it was very helpful. We cannot heal what we deny. We cannot heal something that we deny exists. So if we don't know our own pain or our own trauma or our own shadows or the places within ourselves that we want to evolve or grow or change, we can never heal them. If we pretend that it's all fine, everything's fine, this is fine. If we're that like dog in that like old meme sitting in the house that's burning and he's like, this is fine, we can't ever put that fire out if we don't acknowledge that it's there. And that's part of what left-handed magic is about. See, some people call left-handed magic dark magic, black magic, whatever. I call it justice-seeking magic. And I'll tell you that when you perform some justice-seeking magic, you're being judged by the universe on the whole as to whether or not your work is valid. You are. That's why you should only be performing anything of that nature if you are confident and assured that you are right and you're not coming from a place of ego. You're not coming from a place of like not handling things appropriately. You can only perform this magic if you're right, if you're justified. And the universe is going to decide that. So I always tell any of my students or anybody who's ever asking me about witch work, only do this if you are sure, right? But that said, you get sure by doing your own work and by holding yourself accountable and by seeking justice within your own self, for yourself, and from yourself. Right? By being willing to say things like, I'm sorry, I completely was wrong in this situation. Do you know how freeing that is and how liberating it is and how much you level up by being willing to be wrong? And how many lessons you learn by being willing to be wrong? Not only do you learn lessons about humility and compassion and being humble, but you learn lessons about how to have like kindness to others. You learn lessons about how to understand when someone really is acting wrong, because you can say, yeah, I've done that before and I know I was coming from a certain type of place. And that self-awareness directly correlates to your magic, because when you start to do any work that is designed to set things right, you start to understand where you were coming from in a place where you were in the wrong. But if we don't look to ourselves, we can't do that work. And so a gray witch is someone who doesn't just have an automatic response to everything. She's not going to just automatically be like, yeah, let's like hex the world. But she's also not going to be like, oh no, that's not appropriate. I don't think that we should really send the energy back. That's always bad. Let's just like bless everything else. I mean, yes, does blessing everything around a person kind of make a difference in helping, get the point across? It does. Is it not just like a convoluted reversal spell? It is. So what am I talking about right now? I'm talking about how some people were like on this thread, they were like, I don't ever send energy back, but I will just bless everything else around that person except for that person themselves, so that they can maybe like see like all the energy elevate around them and be like, I wonder why it's not elevating for me. And I was like, that's like worse than what I'm saying. Like that's like just like some passive aggressive witchcraft right there. Let's not do that. That's just wrong, and it's dishonest to yourself, and it's dishonest to them, and it's all kinds of like twisted up. What I want you to do is to be able to stand firm and in alignment with anything you do. I want you to say, this is mine, I claim it, I own it, I take ownership of it, and I'm going to stand by it. I want you to know that what you're doing is what you're doing. And I want you to be willing to say that what you're doing is what you're doing. Secrets get you nowhere, and trying to hide behind the truth of things or twist the truth really doesn't get you anywhere either. So a gray witch is going to say there has to be a middle ground. There has to be something in between. And I'm going to be willing to kind of blend and meld the blessings and the justice together to sort of formulate a solution. And yeah, there are specific spells that you can do. And yes, there are formulas you can follow. And yes, there is absolutely a right and wrong way to do certain witchcraft. But it's kind of just like grammar, right? Like there's definitely rules. You're definitely supposed to write words in a certain way. But there's grammar inherently is problematic as well, right? Like not only is it colloquial, and not only is it like based in the systems of oppression and classism and like white supremacy, honestly, but grammar itself like is divisive, because saying there's one proper way to speak kind of puts certain people on a pedestal and allows other people to ignore other people who are still very valid, right? So there's problems right there. But not only that, but let's look at all the poets of the world who understood very well the laws of grammar, the rules of grammar, and then intentionally broke them all to make some of the world's most beautiful writing that exists. So spells are the same way. Like, are there certain ways you can do spells? Yes, there are. Does memorizing these make you some kind of perfect witch? No, not necessarily. Does knowing the spells improve your witchcraft? Probably. But it also can create this hierarchy system as well that I kind of touched on with grammar. But not only that, but spells are also just spells. Like, I actually happen to think that the most beautiful witchcraft comes when you create a spell from your own understanding of all the spells that you have come across, or all the spells that you've worked before, and you meld it, blend it, and make it into your own thing, because then your energy is really, really going into it, and your energy is creating it, and your energy is making it, and it's bringing it to life, and that is what creates the most powerful spells that there are. So in this idea where we're talking about, like, is it bad to say, I'm going to send someone's energy back to themselves? I don't know. Is it? Maybe, maybe not. It depends on where you're coming from and why you're doing it. It depends on where the person's coming from and what they're doing. And it comes from a place of like your own personal set of morality within yourself. Like if you've been dealing with someone who is constantly just sending you some negativity, and you've been kind of like, oh, I'll just be nice about it, and then finally like they're trying to actually mess you up, maybe you're going to be like, you know what, you're going to go ahead and get that energy right back to you. And that might be okay, and it might not. Okay, it might not. It might need to sit with you a specific kind of way. But to make a blanket statement that says all reversal spells are bad is inappropriate in my opinion. And to make a statement that says I'm only going to do magic that is like positive blessings only, that's valid. You can totally have a witchcraft practice that is simply based around blessings and elevating the energy and sending beautiful love to people. And quite frankly, as much as I talk about other kinds of magic, 95% of my witchcraft is positive. It's all just like, let me enhance your energy. Let me send healing. Let me send love. Let me like sweeten your life. Let me send you prosperity and abundance and blessings and angels and all the good things that there are in the world. Let me surround you in a bubble of positive energy. Let me place you in this crystal grid that will just make your life absolutely beautiful. That's 95% of my work. But I will absolutely choose this hill to die on for that last 5%, because if I can't hold systems accountable for their bad behavior, or if I can't hold predators accountable for their predatory behavior, and if I can't like stand up for myself and use my own magic to protect myself against people or creatures or energies or entities or individuals who are coming for me, then I don't see the point. And I think that that's partially why witches are awake right now, and I think that's partially why magic is in such a huge resurgence. And I think that that's also why we are obligated to, once we know, claim, and honor the fact that we are a witch, we are obligated to do the self-work required so that we are able to really assess and look at the world and say to ourselves, something seems off there, and I'm going to do my part to set it right. So that's my thought on Grey Witchcraft. I would love to hear your thoughts about this because it's such an interesting topic and something just to speak about. And it's something that everybody has an opinion on. So I would love to hear what you have to say. And I'm so glad that I'm back to the podcast. I have missed it. I have missed you guys very much. I hope you're all doing well. The world has been so crazy. Everything's been turned upside down. I know for myself, it's been absolutely interesting to be on this journey. I have gone through it with my mental health during quarantine. I have had times of absolute beauty during this experience, and I've had some really low lows. So if you're there too, please know that you're not alone. You can reach out to me or, make a post and tag me on it on Instagram. I always love when people do that. And I'm back. So it's been wonderful to revisit the podcast, and I love hearing from you. So again, you can find me over on Instagram at moonstone_witchery. I'm somewhere on Twitter. I'm definitely on my website, moonstonewitchery.com, and it's a beautiful website that my beautiful partner made for me. She worked very hard on it. We're actually always revamping it, so I'd love for you to check it out. We have cool things over there on the website, and I am on Facebook. So, yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope to talk to y'all again soon.